Tseliso, you wrote in 2014 in an article for Africa as a Country that hip hop didn't scare anyone, nor was it likely to incite mass action towards any socioeconomic cause. To remain relevant, South African hip hop engaged in ego-boosting PR exercises masquerading as beef. And a year after that, Fees Must Fall and Roads Must Fall happened. So is it still the case, or is it, as Warrick is saying just now, that there still is nothing that is politically catalyzing South Africa's hip hop artists?
Yeah, so for me, it's always tricky to discuss hip hop, because it's so underground, mainstream. And in terms of at least the scene that I'm connected to, there's always been a sense of continuity and a sense of I guess, awareness and responsibility to the greater community. That there's that rappers have a voice and you need to have that voice. As far as the mainstream goes, man, the mainstream is mainstream. You got to be down with the ANC, you got to be down with the liquor brands, you have to, that's just how it is. It's a neo-capitalistic society that we live in, and I suppose rappers too find a place where they can fit into that mold. Yeah.
But what do you, Tseliso, for you, like, where do you think things changed? I mean, this is because I think Warrick said, I don't know if you were there when he said that, like, you had this kind of, the history of South African hip hop is very political, explicitly, like the lyrics, the style, the approach, like, and then suddenly if you think hip hop in South Africa now, I know you're saying that different scenes, but that the most visible scene, the one that get exported, the one that appears on Sway or whatever, when those people are associated with black capitalism, like
but
where
you've also got someone like Stogie T appearing on Sway, rapping about, I mean, like it's and that's just the school that I'm coming from. You can't separate these two things, because it's what we are seeing is very reflective of, like you listen to jazz in the 90s, that shit was cheesy. It was all synths and, talking about freedom and all this nonsense, right? And so for me, like how I like to approach these issues is, as the associate professor earlier was saying, it's like from a socio-cultural perspective, you know what I mean? This is what like people are going through, and hip hop is reflective of that, you know what I mean? And I think at least I do agree with that point about 2050 being catalytic to, at least in a hip hop sense, a new school, so to say, you know what I mean? That was in theory, at least in the rebel sense of it, initially led by someone like a Casper Nyovest, who also changed. So what changes is the corporate interest. You know what I mean? It's pretty much what happened to American hip hop in '94 when Common and Most Def and them were getting sponsored by, Sprite, when the Sprite money started rolling in, And I'd go so far as arguing that, in the 80s, like, and I've had like actual conversations with Falco and, Ray D and Emil about this. That was just the gist of that era, that like, that's what was hit back then, you know what I mean? And, as times change, like, people's, I guess, views change, and hip hop in turn reflects that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Warrick, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, I mean, just want to follow on with that. It's like, I don't think there's a lack of consciousness, but there is also, I mean, amongst performers, but I also think that there's also a sense that you don't have to, always be promoting conventionally political ideas and aesthetics like that. What's wrong with the idea of a black capitalism? What's wrong with the idea of sort of a more commoditized hip hop aesthetic.
And if I may add on to, what everyone has put forth so far, like one could argue that, someone like KKA, shouting out, I guess, a POC on a song, or like putting on Brady D on a song, that's, not a power political move per se, but it is politics. It's his personal politics that somehow extend into the, the collective consciousness, so to say. It's sort of pop cultural bite-sized politics, which is, I guess, the zeitgeist, the cultural zeitgeist, and as far as, bite-sized TikTok type Twitter content is concerned. And I guess like what remains for I as the listeners to then research like further, it poses the challenge for me to do the work